South Africa, I beg your pardon. Controversial former South African President Jacob Zuma is in the news, and this time he has launched an attack on a seasoned South African journalist who reported on his medical records and a state prosecutor who he alleges leaked it. Zuma has issued a summons to legal writer Karen Mon and state prosecutor Billy Downer as part of a private prosecution against them for revealing his medical records.
Morgan contends that she got the records from the court where Zuma is facing corruption charges. The South African National Editors Forum, SANEF, called it a clear case of intimidation intended to silence Morgan. But some politicians said that she crossed the journalism ethics code by revealing confidential information. Now, joining us this morning is Executive Director, Freedom of Expression Institute, Samkelo Mohine, to help us understand the issue better and what's going on in South Africa. Samkelo, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
All right, let's start with understanding the basics. The case the former president is making against Karen Morgan was for leaking his medical records. Does he have, a strong case here?
Yes, just to clarify that it wasn't the medical records that were leaked, and it wasn't the leak per se. There is a letter that former President Zuma's medical practitioner wrote about his medical condition, and that was not, the records themselves. So it's a letter from the doctor just describing what ill he has, and that's part of the allegation that this is just a ruse, this is just an attack on a journalist, that it wasn't medical records. The public still doesn't know what exactly is wrong with Mr. Zuma.
Okay, so now we have updates about this information so far, and we want to find out if this is usually the norm for politicians suing journalists for revealing details. Is that the norm in South Africa?
Yeah, South Africa has had a problem where there's been a lot of attacks and attempts to intimidate journalists. And unfortunately, Karen Mon has been attacked not only by the ANC side, but you've also had run-ins with what is called the economic freedom fighters. And this is just an atmosphere that's being created just to intimidate journalists. And one looks at the context whereby, in this case, it was a letter. It wasn't the medical records. And then there's the issue of what is usual practice when it comes to embargoes, for instance. There is information that is sometimes exposed to journalists or other people or interested parties, and people are asked to hold on to that information up until a particular embargo time. And that is what has happened in this case, whereby the prosecution did expose this letter to Karen Mon, but she was not supposed to do anything about it or publish it up until it has become public record. So it's not as if the details of former President Zuma were taken and given to a journalist who published them. No, they were only published after they became a public record in the courts.
Well, Zuma, of course, has had a pretty long run-in with the, South African legal system in the last few years. Is this, on all of this that is playing out now, is it in any way going to help his case? And is there any other way that he could have gone around, this if he felt his right to privacy as a citizen of South Africa was compromised?
Yes, I mean, there is a press code of ethics in South Africa, and there is a press council whereby you can report journalists if you think that they've transgressed their code of ethics. So that was an option that was open to him. But I think just in terms of a strategy that President Zuma has been using in terms of his criminal matters and these legal wars, is that he plays for time. And I see it in that context that it's being raised, but the intention is to play for time. So the longer that any other legal issues can be brought up and challenged, the longer it will take for him to come into court.
Okay, now should this matter become a success in favor of Zuma, what sort of penalties could one likely face?
Yeah, there's the two sides. There's a side whereby you might have there being an impact on the prosecutorial side, because Billy Downer, the person who's supposed to prosecute in this matter, the NPA might be forced to take a decision around him. And then when it comes to Karen, the matter might go to proceed into a criminal matter. And yes, then there will be repercussions criminally.
Well, it's a pretty interesting case. And of course, considering that there is Universal Access to Information Day later this month, what does Zuma's case say about media freedom? And do you, of course, see that there is more or less media freedom in South Africa, and of course, access to information?
Yeah, I mean, we are in a slightly better state than other countries, whereby we do have laws that protect journalists and journalism and access to information. But recently there has been a shrinking of that space. So you have the legislation and the laws that are permissive, but in terms of the practicalities, Karen Morgan is just one of the journalists that have been attacked. And in particular, we've got very serious attacks on female journalists in South Africa. It's a huge problem. And, some of these attacks lead to self-censorship. And as a result, the shrinking of the issues around access to information. So, yeah, the laws are there, but the space around access to information, access for people to report the truth is shrinking.
Sam Kelo, thank you for your time with us this morning. We certainly would like to follow up with the updates of this story, seeing how it plays out, especially as regards freedom of information in South Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.